there's a call to nobility in the idea of imitation of the logos, but it's more than that. It's a call to something of, well, the hypothesis is it's a call to something of cosmic significance, and I don't think that we have any right to assume that that idea is wrong. We don't understand our place in the cosmos, and you know, if you base your analysis on size, physical size, well, there are bigger things than us, but that's not a reasonable yardstick. There isn't anything that's more complex than us, not that we know of. So why not use that as a marker? And there is something. There's an integral relationship between consciousness and being, and that isn't taken with sufficient seriousness by the materialist community. They keep, like people like Daniel Dennett, for example, and you know, he wrote a book on consciousness, which his critics, it was called Explaining Consciousness, and his critics called it Explaining Consciousness Away. And I read the book, and that is what he did as far as I'm concerned. And you know, people like Sam Harris have a real hard time with free will, and so their proclivity is to deny it. But they act out the proposition that people have free will, including themselves, because otherwise they wouldn't be able to exist in society, because people aren't very happy when you treat them like they're not at least semi-autonomous agents. And so I don't think that that's fluke. I think that we are semi-autonomous agents. Now, we don't understand how that can be possible, but I'm not willing to say that it isn't the case merely because I can't explain it, especially when I observe that people accept it behaviorally as an axiomatic proposition. So they accept it as true. They can say they don't believe it, but it doesn't matter. Well, it depends on what you think you mean when you say believe, and for me, you act out what you believe, you know, and your conscious, your cognitive, your capacity for abstraction can divorce itself from your embodied reality and go wherever it wants. It can even propose contradictory, it can propose a worldview that isn't in alignment with the manner of your embodiment at all. That happens all the time. It happens to everyone to some degree because we're not transparent to ourselves. But well, it isn't so straightforward to determine what our place is in the world. And the thing that really got me with regards to that wasn't the good that we could do, but the harm that we can do. Because you can debate about the good we can do, but you cannot debate about the harm we can do. That's done. We know, if we want to know. Yeah. And I think my experience was when I took that seriously, which meant understanding how that was about me, you know, about that Auschwitz was about me, and that the Stalinist camps were about me, then, well, that reorients you. That's a deep part of the shadow idea, right? I mean, and I think that is part of the idea of taking the sins of the world onto yourself. It's like you're a human being, so you see what human beings do. That's you. And you might say, well, I'd never do that. It's like, don't be so sure about that. In fact, the probability that you're wrong is extraordinarily high.
Especially if you think you wouldn't.
Well, that's yes. And I mean, it isn't self-evident that the default position is heroism in the face of the advance of evil. In fact, quite the contrary. So it's highly probable that you would be on the side of the weak who are transformed into oppressors. And that's a very terrifying realization if you take it seriously, which you should. And I do believe that if we don't take that with sufficient seriousness, we are not going to survive because we're too powerful to be naive. You know, and that was something that Jung insisted on, especially after the invention of the hydrogen bomb in particular. It's like, if you're going to play with fire, you better be a master of fire.